The city of New York never truly slept. Its streets hummed with restless energy, horns blaring, neon lights flickering, and footsteps echoing in the night. But somewhere in a quiet corner of a dimly lit parking lot, silence lived inside an old, rusty sedan. It wasn't just a car, it had become the fragile shelter of a woman whose life had once been filled with laughter, chalkboards, and children's dreams. Her name was Amelia Carter, and she had once been an elementary school teacher. She had loved her students with the kind of fierce devotion only teachers truly understand. But after budget cuts closed her school, and life struck her with a series of misfortune as her mother's medical bills, rising rent, and the collapse of her small world, Amelia had found herself sleeping in her car. The backseat was stacked with books, notebooks, and old lesson plans she couldn't bear to throw away. Her few clothes were stuffed into a duffel bag. At night, she curled up under a blanket, clutching a journal where she scribbled prayers and lesson ideas, as though clinging to the last fragments of her identity. She believed no one noticed her. She believed the city had swallowed her whole. But she was wrong. One rainy night, a man left a towering glass building across the street. He wore a perfectly tailored navy suit, his shoes gleaming even in the drizzle. His face carried the sharpness of power, yet there was an unmistakable weariness in his eyes. Alexander Knight, the billionaire CEO of Knight Enterprises, was heading toward his private car, parked just steps away. As his driver hurried to open the door, Alexander stopped. His gaze had fallen upon the old sedan parked in the far corner. Its windows were fogged, and through the dim glow of the street lamp, he saw the faint outline of a figure huddled inside. Something tugged at him, though he couldn't explain why. "Wait here," he said to his driver, walking slowly toward the car. Inside, Amelia stirred. She had grown used of the distant sound of footsteps in the night, but these ones grew louder, closer, more deliberate. Her heart pounded as she sat up, clutching her blanket tighter. A knock on the glass startled her, and when she looked up, she froze. A tall man with piercing gray eyes stood outside, rain dripping from his hair. For a terrifying second, Amelia thought he might be the police or some stranger ready to drive her away from the only place she had left. She lowered the window just a fraction. "Can I help you?" Her voice trembled. Alexander studied her face, paled, tired, framed by strands of damp hair. There was something hauntingly familiar in her eyes, though he couldn't place it. "Are you a broken bar living here?" he asked softly. Amelia's cheeks flushed with shame. She quickly looked away, gripping her blanket tighter. "Please, see broken bar, just leave me alone," she whispered. Most men of Alexander's wealth and stature might have done exactly that. They might have dismissed her, walked away, pretended they hadn't seen the shadow of poverty right before them. But Alexander couldn't move. Something deep inside him stirred at an echo of his own past. Because once, many years ago, before he was a billionaire, before the skyscrapers and private jets, he had been a boy with nothing. He remembered the nights he and his mother had slept in a cramped shelter, the way hunger gnawed at his stomach, and how the world had looked at them with pity or worse, indifference. He couldn't walk away. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said gently. "I just a broken bar noticed you. It's raining. You shouldn't have to spend the night in here." Amelia let out a bitter laugh, though her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "And where else would you suggest I go, sir? Hotels don't exactly welcome people who can't even afford a sandwich." Her words hit him like a blade. She spoke with dignity, even in her despair, as though clinging to whatever pride she had left. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then sighed. Amelia Carter." Alexander extended his hand slowly, as though bridging a fragile distance. "Alexander." She gave him a skeptical glance, not recognizing the man whose face often appeared in business magazines and financial news. To her, he was just another well-dressed stranger from a world she didn't belong to anymore. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the sound of rain tapping against the windshield. Finally, Alexander spoke again. "Amelia, a broken bar, would you allow me to help you?" Her shoulders stiffened. She had heard promises before, empty words from people who pitied her for a moment, then disappeared. "Help?" she repeated, almost in disbelief. "Do you think I haven't heard that before? People offer help out of guilt, but when they realize how broken you are, They vanish. Alexander's eyes softened. I won't vanish. She wanted to believe him, but her heart was weary. Why me? You don't even know me. And then, with a voice quieter than the rain, he said, because I see myself in you. Amelia blinked, stunned. She didn't understand what he meant, but before she could ask, he stepped back slightly, respecting her space. I won't force you, Alexander said, but if you ever decide you're reading a broken bar, come to this address. He pulled out a sleek business card from his pocket and slid it gently onto the cracked dashboard. His name glimmered in silver letters. Amelia glanced at it, then at him, her mind swirling with disbelief. Why would a man like you even care? Alexander gave her the faintest of smiles. Because sometimes, fate puts people in our path for a reason. And with that, he turned and walked away, his driver opening the car door for him. In moments, the sleek black vehicle vanished into the night, leaving Amelia alone with the car resting before her. She stared at it for a long time, torn between hope and fear. Her rational mind told her it was dangerous to trust strangers, especially ones who seemed too good to be true. Yet her heart whispered that perhaps, just perhaps, this was the miracle she had been praying for every night in her journal. But Amelia Carter had learned not to trust too quickly, so she curled back into her blanket, clutching the card to her chest, whispering to herself, don't be foolish. A broken bar, people like him don't save people like me. What she didn't know was that this meeting, born of chance under a rainy New York sky, was only the beginning of a story that would change her life forever. The next morning, Amelia woke to the sound of city buses rushing past and the blare of car horns. Sunlight leaked through the cracked windshield, warming her face. For a moment, she thought the encounter with the mysterious man had been nothing more than a strange dream. But when she sat up, there it was, in the business card resting on her dashboard. Alexander Knight. The name shimmered in silver print. Beneath it the address of a corporate tower she had walked past countless times, never imagining she'd have a reason to step inside. She held the card between her trembling fingers, torn. Part of her wanted to throw it away and convince herself it meant nothing, but another part whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was her one chance to climb out of the pit life had buried her in. For hours, she sat in her car, staring at the card, until finally her heart won over her fear. She took a deep breath, changed into the cleanest clothes she had left, and walked the long stretch of blocks toward Knight Enterprises. The building loomed above her like a fortress of glass and steel. The lobby gleamed with marble floors and golden chandeliers. Amelia felt instantly out of place. The receptionist's polite smile faltered when she noticed Amelia's worn shoes and frayed coat. Can I help you, ma'am? Someone gave me this card, Amelia said, holding it out as if it were her only shield. The receptionist's eyes widened slightly, then flickered with respect. She picked up the phone without another word. Mr. Knight will be right down. Moments later, the elevator doors opened, and Alexander himself stepped out. He wasn't in a suit this time but a simple white shirt with rolled-up sleeves. Yet somehow, he looked even more powerful. His face softened when he saw her. You came, he said, almost as if he hadn't expected her to. Amelia shifted uncomfortably. I almost didn't. He nodded, as though he understood completely. Come with me. He led her into his private office on the top floor. The panoramic windows revealed the entire skyline, but Amelia's eyes kept darting between the luxurious leather chairs, polished oak desk, and shelves stacked with books that seemed untouched. Why am I here? She asked bluntly, folding her arms. Alexander leaned against his desk, his expression thoughtful. Because I meant what I said last night. I want to help you. Her skepticism flared again. Why? You don't know me. You could have just given me money, or food, and walked away. Alexander exhaled slowly, as though bracing himself. Because you remind me of someone, my mother. The words hung in the air, raw and unexpected. Amelia's defenses softened just a little. When I was a boy, Alexander continued, his voice lower now, we lost everything. My father abandoned us, and my mother worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table. There were nights we slept in a shelter. She taught me that knowledge was the only way out, that education could build a future when nothing else could. She was a teacher, like you. Amelia's breath caught. Suddenly, the strange kindness of this billionaire made sense. But here's the secret, he added, turning toward the window as though confessing to the city itself. All the wealth, the empire I've built, it feels empty. I've spent years trying to fill a void, but money doesn't heal the scars of being powerless once. That's why I noticed you, because I knew that look in your eyes. I've seen it in my mother's. I've seen it in the mirror. Amelia's throat tightened. For the first time in years, someone wasn't looking at her with pity but with recognition. So Broken Bar, what exactly are you offering? She asked cautiously. Alexander turned back, a spark of determination in his eyes. A second chance. You were a teacher once. That's not something you lose. I want you to help me start something that matters. A foundation. Schools for children who have nothing. You'll lead a program. Amelia blinked, stunned. Me? But I live in a car. I can't even afford a hot meal. And you expect me to run something so important? I expect you to do exactly what you've always done. You teach, inspire, guide. I'll provide the resources. You provide the heart. Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. For so long, she had felt invisible, discarded. And now, here was this Mona, this billionaire, telling her she still had worth. Why trust me with this? She whispered. Because I trust my instincts, Alexander said simply. And they're telling me that you were meant to walk into my life. The weeks that followed were nothing short of transformation. Alexander arranged for Amelia to have a furnished apartment, stocked with food and clothes. At first, she resisted, ashamed of accepting so much, but he insisted it wasn't charity, it was investment. Each morning, Amelia walked onto Night Enterprises with her shoulders a little straighter. She began working with the team Alexander had assembled, drafting plans for the Knight Foundation for Education. Her ideas were brilliant, her passion contagious. The board members were skeptical at first. Why trust a homeless woman with such responsibility? But the fire in her eyes silenced them. One evening, as they reviewed plans in his office, Alexander watched Amelia animatedly sketching out a model for after-school programs. For the first time in years, he felt alive, not because of profit margins or acquisitions, but because he was building something that had meaning, and she was the reason. You've changed this place, he admitted quietly. Amelia looked up, surprised. I haven't done anything yet. You've changed me, he corrected. She froze, meeting his gaze. For a moment, the air between them thickened with something unspoken, but Amelia quickly looked away, focusing back on her notes. She wasn't ready to blur the lines between gratitude and something deeper. Months later, the first Night Learning Center opened its doors. Dozens of children from underprivileged families rushed inside, their laughter filling the halls. Amelia stood at the entrance, tears streaming down her face as she watched them. This was her dream alive again, larger than she had ever imagined. Alexander stepped beside her, his voice soft. This is your doing, Amelia. No, she said, shaking her head. This is ours. He smiled. And for the first time in years, his heart felt light. But the true secret wasn't just Alexander's painful past or his wealth. It was the fact that both he and Amelia had been broken on Sia, and together, they were learning that brokenness could build something beautiful. The billionaire's secret wasn't his fortune, it was his heart. And by opening it to a woman society had forgotten, he had changed not just her life, but his own forever. Amelia no longer slept in a car. She no longer woke up invisible. She stood tall as the director of a foundation that was giving children the same gift she once gave her students, hope. And Alexander, once haunted by emptiness, had found purpose, not in skyscrapers or stock markets, but in a single truth: sometimes the greatest wealth lies in lifting others when they've fallen.